last thing you want to do is to raise taxes in the middle of a recession.
Energy policy was working, the price of gasoline would not be $4 a gallon.
Well,
here.
think about what the governor just said. He said, when I took office, the price of gasoline was $1.80, $1.86. Why is that? Because the economy was on the verge of collapse. Because we were about to go through the worst recession since the Great Depression, as a consequence of some of the same policies that Governor Romney is now promoting. So it's conceivable that Governor Romney could bring down gas prices, because with his policies, we might be back in that same mess. What I want to do is to create an economy that is strong and at the same time produce energy. My philosophy on taxes has been simple, and that is I want to give middle-class families and folks who are striving to get in the middle class some relief, because they have been hit hard over the last decade, over the last 15, over the last 20 years. So 4 years ago, I stood on a stage just like this one. Actually, it was at a town hall, and I said I would cut taxes for middle-class families, and that's what I've done, by $3,600. I said I would cut taxes for small businesses, who are the drivers and engines of growth. Now, Governor Romney was a very successful investor. If somebody came to you, Governor, with a plan that said, here, I want to spend $7 or $8 trillion, and we're going to pay for it, but we can't tell you until maybe after the election how we're going to do it, you wouldn't have taken such a sketchy deal. And neither should you, the American people, because the math doesn't add up.
President Obama was right. He said that that was outrageous to have deficits as high as $500 billion under the Bush years. He was right. But then he put in place deficits twice that size for every one of his 4 years. And his forecast for the next 4 years is more deficits, almost that large. And then we have his own record, which is we have 4 consecutive years where he said when he was running for office he would cut the deficit in half. Instead, he's doubled it. We've gone from $10 trillion of national debt to $16 trillion of national debt. If the president were reelected, we go to almost $20 trillion of national debt. This puts us on a road to Greece.
Now, does that mean you're not struggling? Absolutely not. A lot of us are. And that's why the plan that I put forward for manufacturing and education and reducing our deficit in a sensible way, using the savings from ending wars to rebuild America and putting people back to work, making sure that we are controlling our own energy, but not just the energy of today, but also the energy of the future. All those things will make a difference. So the point is, the commitments I've made, I've kept. And those that I haven't been able to keep, it's not for lack of trying, and we're going to get it done in a second term.
This is a president who has not been able to do what he said he'd do. He said that he'd cut in half the deficit. He hasn't done that either. In fact, he doubled it. He said that by now middle-income families would have a reduction in their health insurance premiums by $2,500 a year. It's gone up by $2,500 a year. And if Obamacare is passed or implemented, it's already been passed, if it's implemented fully, it'll be another $2,500 on top. The middle class is getting crushed under the policies of a president who has not understood what it takes to get the economy working again.
The last thing we should do is raise taxes on the middle class. You will not see your taxes increase one single dime. You will not see your taxes increased a single dime. I repeat, not one single dime. And keep in mind that under a balanced approach, the 98% of Americans who make under $250,000 would see no tax increases at all. None. 98% of Americans and 97% of small businesses wouldn't see their income taxes go up by a single dime. Make sure the taxes on the 98% of Americans don't go up, and then we should let the tax cuts expire for folks like me, for the top 2% of Americans. If, on the other hand, you make less than $250,000 a year, like 98% of American families do, your taxes shouldn't go up. That's all there is to it. If you make more than $1 million a year, you should pay at least the same percentage of your income in taxes as middle-class families do. Now, under my plan, 97% of small businesses would not see their income taxes go up. Members of the Republican Congress say we're going to sign a no-tax pledge so that we don't ask a dime from millionaires and billionaires to reduce our deficit so we can still invest in education and helping kids go to college. Me too.
All right, taxpayers, you better beware. Just 1 week after lawmakers on Capitol Hill passed the disastrous fiscal cliff bill, we learned they're not done taking money out of your paycheck. In fact, it looks like, well, they're just getting started. Watch this.
Do you then agree with the Republican leader in the Senate, Mr. McConnell, who says we're done now with the taxing side of it? Now we have to concentrate on spending. Is that done now?
No,
is the revenue side of it taken care of yet?
No, it is not. I mean, the president had said originally he wanted $1.6 trillion in revenue. He took it down to 1.2 as a compromise. In this legislation, we get $620 billion, very significant high-end tax, changing the high-end tax rate to 39.6%. But that is not enough on the revenue side. We've already agreed to $1 trillion in spending cuts, over $1 trillion in spending cuts.
So are you then saying to the upper classes, get ready, you're going to have to pay some more? This is not the end of it?
Well, I'm saying that's not off the table.
That's not off the table.
All right, now it gets worse because even though President Obama and his liberal cohorts promised they would only raise taxes on the top 1%, the Tax Policy Center, they crunched the numbers, they discovered that 77% of American households are going to see their taxes go up. What a way to start off the year. And with the March 1st deadline fast approaching, the President of the United States, he decided to step off the golf course earlier today and address this dire situation.
These cuts are not smart, they are not fair, they will hurt our economy, they will add hundreds of thousands of Americans to the unemployment rolls. This is not an abstraction. People will lose their jobs.
All right, the cuts are not smart, they're not fair, they're going to hurt the economy. But what the president didn't mention, that the sequester, that was his idea in the first place.
Bob, as the man who literally wrote the book about the budget battle, put this to rest. Whose idea was the sequester, and did you ever think that we'd actually get to this point?
First of all, it was the White House. It was Obama and Jack Lew and Rob Neighbors who went to the Democratic leader in the Senate, Harry Reid, and said, this is the solution.
There you have it. The plan the president is now calling, quote, not smart, not fair, was actually his solution to, quote, saving the economy. But again, that's not what we heard today at the White House. Instead, what we heard was our commander, campaigner-in-chief, reverting back into election mode, of course, blaming Republicans, using pathetic scare tactics to smear the opposition. Sound familiar? Now, you've already heard a sample of that fear-mongering, but what I'm about to play for you can only be described as Obama's Mayan apocalypse. It's a chilling presidential prophecy that will have you questioning whether or not the sun will even rise next Friday if, in fact, the sequester takes hold. Here's more of the president's dire warning, fear-mongering from earlier today. And let's just say that we Hannitized his comments a little bit. Take a look.
Now, if Congress allows this meat cleaver approach to take place, it will jeopardize our military readiness.
What kind of training, son? Army training, sir!
It will eviscerate job-creating investments in education.
Yeah, I'm registered in this class.
What class?
This is U.S. history. See the globe right there.
Emergency responders, their ability to help communities respond to and recover from disasters will be degraded. Border Patrol agents will see their hours reduced. FBI agents will be furloughed.
You were with the old Bureau 7 years, and that Bureau is now gone, sir. And so are you.
Federal prosecutors will have to close cases and let criminals go.
This place is getting as bad as home. Well, just as well go home and sleep.
Air traffic controllers and airport security will see cutbacks.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Tens of thousands of parents will have to scramble to find childcare for their kids. Hundreds of thousands of Americans will lose access to primary care and preventive care. That's why Democrats, Republicans, business leaders, and economists, they've already said that these cuts, known here in Washington as sequestration, are a bad idea.
The end of the world as we know it. Let's go to the videotape. This was back in 2011, and this was Obama's idea. Let's listen to.
Already, some in Congress are trying to undo these automatic spending cuts. My message to them is simple. No. I will veto any effort to get rid of those automatic spending cuts to domestic and defense spending. There will be no easy off-ramps on this one.
Whoops. So I guess he's the one that's not fair, not smart, and he's the one that's hurting the economy because it was his idea. Let me go to the president, all the scare tactics. If you're a conservative in this country, you want to poison the air and water. Right. You don't care about children with autism, Down syndrome. You don't care about the elderly. We've got a fear-mongering demagogue in the White House that doesn't like us and thinks we're evil. Watch.
I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Michelle wasn't. But somebody gave us a chance. Just like these folks up here are looking for a chance. This congressional Republican budget is something different altogether. It is a Trojan horse. It is thinly veiled social Darwinism. My plan says we're going to put teachers back in the classroom, construction workers back to work rebuilding America. And then you got their plan, which is let's have dirtier air, dirtier water. Who are these 50 million Americans? Many are somebody's grandparents. Some are middle-class families who have children with autism or Down syndrome. These are the Americans we'd be telling to fend for themselves.
Quick points. It was Obama's idea, as we established, on sequestration. His idea. Right. Now he thinks it's dumb and it's draconian. Point two. The Senate didn't pass a budget in 4 years. Republicans passed 2 plans to try and avoid this. Point number 3, all this bill does will take us back to the amount of money we spent in 2011. If we can't do that with $16.5 trillion in debt and borrowing 46 cents of every dollar we spend, we're doomed. He is hell-bent on destroying Republicans and advancing his socialist agenda, and it doesn't matter if he has to lie to get there. Then I'm going to call the president using his same tactics. I think the president's a thief. I think he's stealing. When we borrow 46 cents of every dollar, he's stealing from our kids, breaking open their piggy banks and taking their pennies because we're borrowing 46 cents of every dollar. Obama, president demagogue. In the next segment, I'm going to throw a grandmother over a cliff, and I'm going to put chemicals in the water that our children are going to drink. So you don't want to miss it.
From one promise after another to the wars that we are in today, though he said we would be out of those wars by now and we would be closing Gitmo. And one example after another. The only promise I can think of that he's kept is that he would transform America, and we're becoming something that previously we wouldn't fathom, we couldn't recognize.
The unemployment, the number of people who are still looking for work is still 23 million Americans. There are more people in poverty, 1 out of 6 people in poverty. How about food stamps? When he took office, 32 million people were on food stamps. Today, 47 million people are on food stamps. How about the growth of the economy? It's growing more slowly this year than last year, and more slowly last year than the year before. The president wants to do well, I understand, but the policies he's put in place, from Obamacare to Dodd-Frank, to his tax policies, to his regulatory policies, these policies combined have not led this economy take off and grow like it could have.